Hey guys, Linus here with Benel Collections, and let's be real for a second, job hunting? Ugh, it's the worst, right? Especially in the Linux world, where it feels like they're always trying to trip you up with some obscure command or question about the kernel's third cousin twice removed. Don't sweat it, we've all been there. That's why Benel Collections teamed up with yours truly to bring you this super comprehensive guide to absolutely crush your next Linux interview. We're talking everything from the basics like what is Linux, which, let's be honest, is a question you better nail, to some seriously deep dive commands. Whether you're just dipping your toes into the Linux pool or you're already swimming laps around the command line, this video is your secret weapon to walking into that interview like the Linux ninja you are. So grab your favorite beverage, maybe fire up a terminal window just to set the mood, and let's get you ready to impress the pants off those interviewers. And hey, while you're at it, smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It helps us out a ton, and lets us know to make more awesome Linux content with Benel Collections. Okay, so what is Linux? Seems like a softball question, right? Well, you'd be surprised how many people trip over it. Remember, interviewers aren't just looking for the right answer, they want to see how you explain it. Think of it like this. Linux is like the engine in your car. You don't see it, but it's what makes the whole thing go. It's the core, the kernel, the heart of the operating system. And just like there are tons of different car brands, there are tons of different Linux distributions, each with its own flavor and focus. Speaking of which, so we talked about the kernel, which is like the engine, but what else makes up a Linux system? Think of it like building a PC. You've got your motherboard, RAM, CPU, graphics card, they all work together, right? In Linux land, you've got the kernel, the shell, and the file system. The shell is how you interact with the kernel, kind of like your keyboard and mouse. And the file system? That's where all your data lives, organized in a way that Linux understands. It's all connected. Alright, time for a slightly deeper dive. The Linux kernel, that magical engine we talked about, is the real MVP of the show. It's the one calling the shots, managing your system resources like a boss. Think of it like the conductor of an orchestra. It makes sure everything runs smoothly, from the memory and CPU to all the hardware connected to your system. It talks to the hardware, manages your processes, and basically keeps the entire Linux party going. Without the kernel, you've got nothing but a very expensive paperweight. Chapter 4. Now, how do you actually talk to this all-powerful kernel? That's where the shell comes in. Think of it like a translator between you and the kernel. You type in commands, the shell interprets them, and then tells the kernel what you want it to do. No need to learn some crazy secret language to talk to your computer, the shell's got you covered. And the cool part? There are different shells out there, each with its own quirks and advantages. It's like choosing between a Phillips head and a flathead screwdriver. Both get the job done, but one might be better for certain tasks. Chapter 5. Alright, remember how we said there are a ton of different Linux distributions, kind of like car brands? Well, some are more popular than others. You've got your Ubuntu, known for its user-friendliness, perfect if you're just starting out. Then there's Debian, the OG, known for its stability. And let's not forget Fedora, the bleeding-edge distro, always pushing the boundaries. Oh, and CentOS and Red Hat Enterprise Linux, the enterprise-grade options for when you need rock-solid reliability. It's like choosing a smartphone. Do you want something simple and easy to use, or something powerful and customizable? Chapter 6. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty commands. First up, changing file permissions. This is Linux 101, folks. You need to know who can read, write, and execute files. That's where the chmod command comes in. Think of it like this. You have a file, and you want to control who can look at it, edit it, and run it. Chmod lets you do just that. You can give permissions to the owner of the file, the group the file belongs to, and everyone else. It's like setting privacy settings on your Facebook posts, but for files. Chapter 7. Ever lost something in a giant wall of text, like trying to find a specific email in your inbox? Yeah, it's a pain. But fear not, the grep command is here to save the day. Grep is your search and rescue team for text files. You give it a pattern to look for, and it scours through files, highlighting any lines that match. It's like having a super-powered Ctrl plus F function. Need to find all the log entries that mention a specific error? Grep it is. Chapter 8. Okay, so grep is great for finding text within files, but what if you don't even know which file you're looking for? Time to bring out the big guns, the find command. This is your file system detective, ready to track down any file no matter how well hidden. You can search by name, size, type, modification time, you name it. It's like having a bloodhound sniffing out your lost files. Lost that important presentation? Find will find it. Chapter 9. Ever feel like your computer is working harder than it should be? Like it's running a marathon in the background? The top command is your system monitor, giving you a live view of what's going on under the hood. It shows you all the running processes, how much CPU and memory they're using, and a bunch of other juicy stats. It's like the task manager on Windows, but way more powerful. Suspect a rogue process is hogging your resources? Top will expose it. Chapter 10. How do you check the disk usage in Linux? Running out of space on your hard drive is the worst. It's like trying to stuff a week's worth of clothes into a tiny backpack. The df command is your storage meter, showing you how much space each partition has and how much is being used. You can see at a glance which drives are getting full and need some cleaning. Don't let a full disk bring your system to its knees. Use df and stay ahead of the game. Chapter 11. What is a symbolic link in Linux? Ever wish you could have a file in multiple places at once without actually copying it? That's where symbolic links come in. They're like shortcuts on your desktop, but for the Linux file system. A symbolic link points to another file or directory, and when you access the link, you're redirected to the original. It's like having a secret passage in your house that leads to another room. Want to access a file buried deep in your system from an easier location? Create a symbolic link. Chapter 12. What is the purpose of the tar command? Need to send a bunch of files to someone? Don't you dare zip bomb them with a million individual files. Use the tar command to create an archive, a single file that contains multiple files and directories. It's like packing all your belongings into a suitcase before a trip. And the best part, you can even compress the archive to save space. Sharing large projects or backups? Tar is your best friend. Chapter 13. How do you start and stop services in Linux? Linux is all about services running in the background doing all sorts of important things, but sometimes you need to start or stop a service, like when you're troubleshooting or configuring your system. Now this is where things get a bit tricky because different Linux distributions have different ways of managing services. Systemd is the most popular one these days, and it uses commands like systemctl start and systemctl stop to manage services. It's like flipping a switch to turn a service on or off. Chapter 14. What is the purpose of the ping command? Ever wonder if a website is down or if your internet is being wonky? The ping command is your go-to tool for checking network connectivity. It sends out a signal to a specific IP address or host name and waits for a response. If the response comes back, you know you have a connection. It's like shouting hello and waiting for someone to shout back. Troubleshooting network issues? Ping is your first line of defense. Chapter 15. How do you check the network configuration in Linux? Need to see what your IP address is or which network interface you're connected to? The IP command is your network configuration dashboard. It's replaced the old ifconfig command and gives you a ton of information about your network settings. You can see your IP address, subnet mask, default gateway, and a whole lot more. It's like looking under the hood of your network connection. Configuring a static IP or troubleshooting network issues? The IP command is your friend. Ever wanted to control another computer remotely like you're sitting right in front of it? That's what SSH or Secure Shell is for. It lets you log into remote computers securely over a network connection. It's like having a magic portal that transports you to another computer. You can run commands, transfer files, and do pretty much anything you could do if you were physically there. Just make sure to use it responsibly. Sometimes programs crash or freeze, and you just need to kill them dead. That's where the kill command comes in. It lets you terminate processes gracefully or forcefully. Every process has a unique ID called a PID, and you can use the kill command with the PID to terminate it. If a program is being stubborn, you can use the 9 option to forcefully kill it. It's like hitting the emergency stop button. Just be careful not to kill any critical system processes. Need to synchronize files between two computers? Don't waste time copying everything over manually. The rsync command is your file synchronization wizard. It copies only the changed files, saving you time and bandwidth. It's like a smart file copier that knows which files need to be updated. You can use it to back up your data, synchronize files between servers, or even deploy websites. It's a versatile tool every Linux user should know. Ever wonder what kind of hardware is powering your Linux machine? The LHAW command is your hardware detective. It gives you a detailed inventory of everything from your CPU and memory to your hard drives and network cards. It's like looking at a spec sheet for your computer. You can use it to troubleshoot hardware issues, check your system's capabilities, or just satisfy your curiosity. It's a handy tool for any Linux enthusiast. Think of a firewall as your computer's bodyguard, protecting it from unwanted network traffic. It acts as a barrier between your system and the outside world, controlling incoming and outgoing network connections. You can configure the firewall to allow or block specific types of traffic like web traffic, email traffic, or anything else. It's an essential security measure for any Linux system, especially servers exposed to the internet. Need to know your IP address? The IP-addr command is your go-to tool. It shows you the IP addresses assigned to all your network interfaces. You can see your local IP address, your public IP address, and even the IP addresses of your virtual machines. It's like checking the address label on your computer. It's a basic command, but incredibly useful for networking tasks. Ever wish your computer could do things automatically on a schedule, like back up your files every night or run a system cleanup script once a week? That's where the cron daemon comes in. It's like a task scheduler for your Linux system. You can schedule commands or scripts to run at specific times or intervals. It's a powerful tool for automating repetitive tasks and keeping your system running smoothly. Before you can access a storage device like a hard drive or a USB drive, you need to mount it. Mounting a file system means making it accessible from a specific directory in your Linux system. It's like plugging a USB drive into your computer and seeing it appear as a drive letter in Windows. The mount command is used to mount file systems, and the umount command is used to unmount them. Ever wanted to create a sandboxed environment within your Linux system, like a separate little world where you can run programs without affecting the rest of your system? That's where the chroot command comes in. It stands for change root, and it lets you change the root directory for a process. It's like creating a virtual jail cell for your programs. It's an advanced security feature that's often used for isolating untrusted software or setting up virtual environments. Need to save space on your hard drive or send large files over the internet? Compression is your friend. The zip and gunzip commands are your compression companions. Zip compresses a file, making it smaller, and gunzip decompresses it back to its original size. It's like squeezing the air out of a balloon. You can use compression for backups, file transfers, or just for organizing your files. The iptables command is your firewall control panel. It lets you configure the Linux kernel firewall, which filters incoming and outgoing network traffic. You can use it to create complex firewall rules that allow or block specific types of traffic based on IP addresses, ports, protocols, and more. It's like having a security guard at the gate of your computer, checking everyone's ID before letting them in. It's a powerful tool for securing your Linux system from network threats. Want to see how hard your CPU is working? The top command, which we talked about earlier, can show you CPU usage in real time. But if you want a more detailed view, you can use tools like htop and mpstat. htop is an interactive process viewer that shows CPU usage per core, while mpstat gives you detailed CPU usage statistics. It's like having a heart rate monitor for your CPU. You can use these tools to identify performance bottlenecks and optimize your system's performance. Need to create a new user account on your Linux system? The useradd command is your user creation tool. You can use it to create new user accounts, set their home directories, and assign them to groups. It's like adding a new employee to your company's system. Each user can have their own files, settings, and permissions. It's an essential command for system administration and user management. Remember the grep command we talked about earlier? It's great for finding text within files, but what if you want to search for a string within all files in a directory and its subdirectories? That's where the R option comes in. When you use grep ER with a search pattern, it recursively searches through all files in the specified directory and its subdirectories, showing you any lines that match. It's like having a search party fan out and search every nook and cranny for your lost text. Want to see how much RAM your system has and how much is being used? The free command is your memory meter. It shows you the total amount of RAM, the amount of free RAM, and the amount of used RAM. You can also see how much memory is being used for buffering and caching. It's like checking the fuel gauge on your car. If you're running low on free RAM, it might be time to close some programs or upgrade your memory. So there you have it, folks. 30 killer Linux interview questions and commands to knock your next interview out of the park. Remember, confidence is key. Knowing your stuff is one thing, but showing them you're a Linux whiz who can explain things clearly is what's going to make you stand out from the crowd. Big thanks to Banel Collections for teaming up with me on this one. Make sure to check them out for awesome. Well, I'm not sure what they do, but they must be pretty cool to sponsor a video like this, right? Seriously, go check them out. And hey, while you're at it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell for more epic tech content. Good luck with those interviews, and I'll catch you in the next one.